Welcome to PMTV UK, the home of professional music technology on YouTube. I'm Sam.
And I'm Meg.
And this is part 1 of our top 10 things to look for.
Or not to look for.
As I was saying, this is our top 10 things to look for when buying an acoustic guitar. Number 1. Make sure to buy the cheapest acoustic guitar that you can find. So first up, let's be honest. You want to play guitar because you want to look cool, pick up girls or boys, whatever you're into, and eventually become a rich and famous rock god. Am I right? But let me tell you this, the road to becoming a full-time professional rock star is not cheap. So when you're buying your first acoustic guitar, make sure to pick up the absolute cheapest one that you can. That way you'll have more money left over for a trendy haircut, a cool leather jacket, and that first tattoo that you may or may not end up regretting in later life.
I'm not sure I agree with all of that, Sam. Not all of us want to be rock stars, and we don't all think that playing guitar will make us more attracted to the opposite sex. We just want to enjoy making music. You get what you pay for, and guitars are no exception. Really cheap guitars are often poorly constructed, hard to play, and don't sound very good. But with that in mind, you don't need to spend a fortune to get yourself a decent first guitar. Even brand new, you can pick up a great sounding acoustic with a solid top from a reputable brand such as Fender, Yamaha or Washburn for around £150 to £250.
Number 2. Make sure your acoustic guitar is really poorly constructed from low quality woods. These so-called tone woods are completely overrated. Spruce, mahogany, koa, walnut, honestly, they all sound the same. To my expert ears, a guitar made out of laminate balsa wood and cardboard sounds exactly the same as one made from a high quality rosewood. But if you do really insist on splashing out on an expensive tone wood guitar, make sure that the woods are either endangered or unethically sourced. That way, at least you've got extra bragging rights when you're boasting to other guitarists.
Again, I don't entirely agree with you there, Sam. Each different type of wood offers a different tonal option. The most commonly used woods for acoustic guitars are spruce, mahogany and rosewood. Spruce offers a lively, bright, resonant tone, whilst mahogany delivers a rich, punchy sound but with considerably less overtones due to its density. Rosewood is usually used for the back and sides of a guitar and adds a darker, bassier tonal element. Unfortunately, solid tone wood guitars can be quite pricey, which is why most beginner to intermediate acoustics feature what's known as laminate wood construction. Tonally, laminate woods are generally considered to be inferior to solid woods, but they do bring costs down considerably and they're really tough, so they're ideally suited to beginner and travel guitars. The most important element of a guitar when it comes to tone is the top. So with this in mind, I definitely recommend looking for a guitar featuring a solid top, as this will resonate more freely and generally offer a richer, more pleasing tone. As mentioned earlier, you don't have to spend a fortune. Guitars such as the Fender CD60S or Washburn WD7 have solid spruce tops with laminate mahogany back and sides and come in at well under £200. But going back to my original point, Sam, all acoustic guitars don't sound the same, so I challenge you to take a blindfold test with a few different guitars to see if you can tell the difference.
Nah, don't really hear the difference. It's probably because my ears are a little too finely tuned. All I hear is the music, man. Number 3. Make sure to buy a completely inappropriately sized guitar. When it comes to acoustic guitars, bigger is always better. Obviously, bigger acoustic guitars are the loudest, hence they're the best. It doesn't really matter if you can't quite get your arm around the body or can't reach all the way down the neck. You're probably going to be carrying your guitar around looking cool more than actually playing it anyway. And carrying around a bigger guitar will make sure that everyone knows that you are a guitarist, which means that you are cool. Plus, if you're planning on taking a guitar travelling, you don't want one of those silly gimmicky travel size models. Just think about how much more luggage you could fit inside the body of a larger guitar.
Actually, Sam, there is a huge variety of acoustic guitar sizes out there, and they all offer different pros and cons. Yes, you are right that the larger dreadnought and jumbo size guitars do tend to be the loudest, but loudest definitely doesn't mean best. Some guitarists, especially those of a smaller stature, can find these types of guitars quite uncomfortable to play as they feel way too big. That's why smaller bodied concert, parlour and travel size guitars are so popular. For younger players, Professional Music Technology also offer a large range of half and three-quarter size guitars. The most important thing is to get into a guitar shop and try a few out for size. Firstly, make sure the guitar sits comfortably in your lap. You should be able to rest your arm over the body with your strumming hand over the sound hole without it feeling awkward. Next, with your other arm, make sure you can reach the tuners at the end of the headstock without it feeling like a stretch. It's also worth checking the thickness of the neck. A common problem with cheaply made acoustics is that they have really chunky necks, so make sure you can easily reach your fingers around all of the strings to comfortably form chords. Tonally, as a rule of thumb, the larger a guitar's body, the louder and bassier the sound. Whilst they're usually quieter, smaller body guitars tend to produce a more focused, controllable tone, so they're great for studio work. Of course, it also depends on the tone woods the guitar is constructed from. A smaller body guitar made from solid tone woods such as the Martin Dreadnought Julia will definitely sound richer and more resonant than a larger but cheaply made guitar.
Number 4. Make sure to look for a guitar with terrible tone and projection. Why bother playing a guitar softly? An acoustic guitar should be really difficult to hear at lower volumes, as this will force you to play loudly and strum aggressively all the time. What's the point of playing unless you're going to be waking up the neighbours at 2 AM to let them know how good a guitarist you are?
Shut up, keep the noise down!
And in terms of poor tone, as mentioned earlier, all acoustic guitars pretty much sound the same anyway. And if you do buy yourself a particularly bad sounding guitar, an engineer can always make it sound a little bit better if you're ever in the studio or at a gig.
Listen, Sam, an acoustic guitar can be an incredibly expressive instrument, and if you're strumming at full volume all of the time, you're really not utilising all of its tonal capabilities. It is true that a lot of really cheap guitars made from lower grade woods do sound very flat and tend to be a bit quieter, so you probably will end up strumming a little harder to maximise their tone. But a better quality guitar, constructed from higher grade tone woods, will resonate much more naturally and sound much sweeter at a lower volume, so there's no need to wake up your neighbours when practising. When playing a quality acoustic, gentle strumming and fingerpicking will also bring out completely different harmonics and overtones from the woods, as opposed to when you're strumming loudly. When choosing a guitar, I always recommend spending a bit of time comparing a few together so you can hear all the subtle differences between each model for yourself and decide which one you prefer. It can also be helpful to have someone else play a guitar for you, so you can take a listen from a different angle to hear how it projects its sound. In terms of tone, it really is a personal preference depending on the style of music that you want to play, but it is really important that you're happy with the way that your guitar sounds. A better sounding guitar is much more inspiring to play, which will make you want to practice more, which will eventually lead to becoming a better guitarist. And if you do plan on using your guitar in the studio, it's always better to start off recording a naturally great tone rather than trying to improve the tone of a horrible sounding guitar with EQ and effects in post-production.
Number 5. Look for a guitar with a really high action and poor fretting. As the old saying goes, no pain, no gain. Playing guitar shouldn't be comfortable. It should be as difficult as possible, and it should really hurt your fingers to press down the strings onto the fingerboard, as this proves how dedicated you are to the art of creating music. To check for a suitably high action, look down the neck of the guitar and make sure it bends upwards like the runway of an aircraft carrier. If the neck's not bendy enough, simply grab an Allen key, stick it in the truss rod and waggle it about a bit. Failing that, just lean the guitar up against a radiator in a damp room for a couple of weeks to help bend the neck. Also, pay particular attention to the frets. They should be fitted very unevenly and have quite jagged edges. This helps add a unique buzzing sound when playing certain notes, and the sharp protruding edges will give you a nice painful reminder of whereabouts your fingers are on the fretboard.
No, this time you're definitely wrong, Sam. When buying an acoustic guitar, either new or second hand, you want to make sure that the action, that's the height of the strings from the frets, is not excessively high across the entire length of the neck. It is completely normal for a guitar's neck to bend slightly due to humidity and temperature changes, so it may need adjusting via the truss rod from time to time. But watch out for any excessive bend in the neck caused by poor construction or neglectful storage, as this type of damage may be irreversible. If you're unsure, a guitar specialist at one of our stores can always give your new guitar a final check over and tweak before you buy it from us. When checking over the fretting, make sure that all of the frets have been fitted at an even height, and on used guitars there's no excessive fret wear. Uneven frets will cause unwanted string buzz and in some cases string choking when playing certain notes. Look out for sharp, jagged edges on the frets. This is a common problem on cheaply made guitars and can make them very uncomfortable to play. You want to make sure that the edge of the fingerboard feels smooth and that the strings are easy to push down onto the frets all the way along the neck. If you're a complete beginner, it may take a couple of weeks of practice to toughen up your fingers, but guitar should definitely not be painful to play.
So we're halfway through our top 10 things to look for when buying an acoustic guitar. Have you got anything else to add, Meg?
No, Sam.
Didn't think so. At least one of us has been talking sense in this video, eh? If you want to check out our entire range of acoustic guitars, visit www.pmtonline.co.uk and follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/PMT House of Rock. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss out on part 2. We'll see you in that video coming very soon. Seriously, you need to go and up your game. What was all that rubbish about different woods? You know, sounding different?